Good morning, and thank you for joining our webinar this morning. Thanks to those who have come along, and also thanks to those who are watching this on recording. For those of you on the webinar just now, this will be available through our YouTube channel, and for those of you watching via YouTube, thank you very much. So I'm Stephen Laurie from Dynamic Edge. I'm Business Development Director, and I'm delighted to be bringing this webinar to you today. So this is following our theme of Get Modern with Microsoft 365. We do have a number of other webinars on this topic that you can go and have a look at. Please feel free to do so. And the main topic of today is this phrase, what do you do when there's no app for that? Well, hopefully I'm going to show you some things today that might give you some ideas of how we can be developing apps within the workplace in order to make us more efficient, and just to look at some of those manual tasks that we do and think about some automation around those as well. Thank you to my colleague Bryony, who is in the background helping with the webinar today. And there is a question and answer section here. What will happen is at the end of the webinar, I'll go through the question and answer section and answer any questions that have been raised. Okay, so without further ado, we'll get started. So before we go into the Power Apps side of things, I just thought I would give us a very quick reminder of Microsoft 365 and what is it and the benefits that we get from it. So Microsoft 365 is an umbrella offering of software and services from Microsoft. Okay, so it's not just Office, it's not just Word and Excel and things like that. It's an umbrella offering. It's got a huge amount of applications and things within there that we can be used within the workplace. And I will show you a diagram later on just to bring that home and show you how much is available to us there. It is available for business, it's available for enterprise, and also education and not-for-profit organisations as well. It provides enhanced security. I can't bring this one home enough. The security aspects of Microsoft 365 cannot be underestimated, and we really need to be looking at that security that's built in there, what it can do to provide our organisations. The unrivaled mobility. Okay, so over the last 18 months, I can't believe we're now talking about 18 months. It's not just the last 12 months, it's the last 18 months that we've really been going through this process of understanding how flexible we are as businesses. So with Microsoft 365, that's allowing us to do that. Okay, it's allowing us to work anywhere, work from home, work in an office, work in a car. It doesn't matter where you are. With Microsoft 365, you've got that mobility. And it works on a subscription model. Okay, so I mean, I know you know this, okay, but with Microsoft 365, we can work on a per user per month basis. Okay, it allows us to control and forecast our spend when it comes to the productivity suite, really well within this model. So some of the key benefits, the user benefits. So to you and I, we can access the latest business software all the time. Okay, it absolutely doesn't matter where we are and what device we're using. We've got access to the latest business software. We've got the Office mobile app, so you can work from anywhere. And ultimately, paperwork is reduced. This is a great thing for me individually because I cast my memory back to the times before I was using Microsoft 365 and using things like OneNote, which is a great application for me, and certainly now Teams as well. But the amount of paper that used to sit on my desk in a very unorganized way, it really wasn't excellent. But now, by using Microsoft 365, everything that I do is now held within my 365 environment, and I don't use paper at all. For those of us on the webinar listening in here who have a management function within the organisations, okay, the Microsoft 365 gives us that cloud portal accessibility, any device, anywhere. Okay, so that means we can manage our organisation. We can manage the subscriptions and the access that various people within the organisation have to the 365 environment. We can do that anywhere. It provides us with business insights as well. So we can take data out of Microsoft 365 and understand how are employees utilising it, how are they using it, how much is Microsoft Teams being used, how many video calls, what length of video calls has our organisation used over the last week, how is Outlook being used, how are applications across the entire organisation being used. That insights are available to us there through the cloud portal as well. And the security center for peace of mind. So Microsoft 365 has an inbuilt security center there that we can go and access and understand the security of our data within the 365 estate. So just enhancing that security benefits idea, we've got AI that we can use to provide smart insights. We can understand if there are any attacks happening to our organization, if we are being targeted, if there's maybe multiple phishing emails going in across the organization. The the security center within Microsoft will pick that up and it will give us that knowledge that we can then go and do some education with our staff, or perhaps just communicate that around everyone so that everyone is aware. And then business data is secure and protected. So this is certainly important when we look at things like GDPR compliance and ISO 27001 as an example. So that umbrella offering, Office 365 there across on the left-hand side of the screen. Office 365, we know it, we love it. Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, and so on and so forth. We've got access to OneDrive and to SharePoint and things like that. So that's part of the Microsoft 365 umbrella. There in the middle, and I've already talked about it twice now, and I will continue to talk about, is this advanced security. So we've got the external threat protection. Okay, we can understand these vectors that are coming into our organizations. We can implement multi-factor authentication. We can enforce Windows Defender, BitLocker, things like that. We can be doing this through that. And then also, as we move forward with device management, we've got Microsoft Intune or Endpoint Manager within there as well, which allows us to manage our entire suite of devices within our organization. So these are great applications, great things that we've now got within the Microsoft 365. And I would suggest that let's explore it. Let's see what's available to us. And if you do have any questions about Microsoft 365, how it could benefit you, or perhaps you're thinking about moving up a license or understanding more about the licenses, give us a shout so that we can certainly come on, spend some time with you and go through that. So exploring the apps. Okay, so Microsoft 365 right there in the center, and just look at the wheel around it. Okay, look at the amount of applications that are available to us through the Microsoft 365 suite. You've all seen that towards the top left corner, they've got Visio and project, and you can see a little $ down towards the middle there. They're the only two applications within there that would cost you extra. And again, it depends on what license you have within 365. But if we just go around that wheel there and we look at the different applications that are there, we've got our normal office type applications that we're used to using. But we've got things like OneNote, I mentioned that earlier on, so note taking, information capturing. Let's not use paper, let's be using applications like that. We've got Planner, to-do list, Microsoft Teams, Microsoft Bookings, Yammer, SharePoint, that's just to name a few. But the purpose of this webinar today is to really delve in and have a look at the Power Platform. So we've got Power Apps, Power BI, Power Automate. So I'm just going to quickly run through in this presentation now, just an overview again of what those are, but more importantly at the end, I'm going to show you an example of something that I've created. When I say I've created, we've created. I do need to give credit to our developers at Dynamic Edge who have really helped bring this to life for me. We've been working with a number of clients recently on utilising Power Apps and Power Automate, especially about automating these processes within the organisations. Before we do that, I just wanted to touch on SharePoint again. SharePoint is obviously a part of that Microsoft 365 journey, but SharePoint is like a foundation stone, certainly SharePoint Online now through 365. When we're building Power Apps and using Power Automate, we need a storage location for the data, and SharePoint is an excellent place for that. So SharePoint allows you to provide document collaboration. You can share content with your team in Teams and Outlook. So it's a place for it to sit there, and then we can utilize it and work with it from these other applications. We've got anywhere access to your files using OneDrive. We've got employee engagement with Yammer and Stream. Okay, so Yammer is almost like the Facebook for business. Okay, so you want to have your own social network within the organization, we can use things like Yammer. It's excellent. And obviously it provides these digital experiences as well. But really importantly, okay, with SharePoint across the bottom there's the security that we can trust. We talked about that in the Microsoft 365 licensing side of things. So within that, you've got multi-factor authentication. You've got the security center where you can look at how data is being used within there as well. Okay, so by holding data in SharePoint, we've got the security. We've got the artificial intelligence that we're starting to look at and go through now, and we'll look at that within the apps and side of things as well. And obviously that extensibility as well, the fact that we can use it and shape it to fit our organization. So some of the key points around SharePoint, okay, so it's content and services, shared files, pages, data and apps across the 365 platform. We've got anywhere access to the files, simple and secure sharing. I will show you when I look at the Power App later on that we use a list within SharePoint. So the list is within SharePoint is where the data is held. So even if I can't access the app, but I can get access to SharePoint, I can still see the data that is held within there. Intelligent intranet and search, okay, so we can connect people, news, knowledge and apps. The search within SharePoint is excellent, so it indexes all of the documents that are within SharePoint. It's not just looking at the title of the document, it's looking at the content that's held within there as well. And it is a modern framework. We can use these apps, workflows and custom development within SharePoint, as I said, right from the very start to drive efficiencies within our businesses. Power BI, I just want to touch on this as well. So Power BI is a part of the Power Platform. Okay, Power BI, we're not going to be looking at Power BI specifically today in the example that I'm going to use of a Power Up that's been developed, but it's really important just to think about the Power Platform as these three, and there is actually Power Agents that are now coming through as well that we can look at a later date. But Power Apps, Power Automate and Power BI, the Power Platform. So Power BI is really about, so we've got data. We've got this information within the business. How do we interrogate it? How do we look at it? How do we understand it? Okay, how can we get the most out of the data that we've got? So by using Power BI, which is Power Business Intelligence, we can look at the data that we've got and create reports, create visualizations of the information that we've got. So it is an out of the box software as a service application. Okay, so it's there. As long as we have data, we can use Power BI to interrogate it and to bring through this information that we want. So as you can see on the left hand side there, we've got our cloud data or on-premise data. So the data could be sitting in SharePoint, or it could be sitting on a server that you've got in your office. Using Power BI and using all of the built-in services within Power BI, we can then export that and we can display these reports onto the web through mobile into Excel documents, and we can embed them. We can embed them within SharePoint. We can embed them within our management reporting packs, and so on and so forth. Lots that we can be doing with Power BI. But we do have a webinar specifically on Power BI, and I would say if you want to have a look at that, please feel free to do so. So with Power BI, we can get data, easily connect, clean and collate data. We can analyze that data. We can build powerful models and flexible measures around the data that we have. We can visualize, we can create stunning interactive reports. Really, really important, this part of it as well, because when we bring these reports out, we want them to be clear and nice and easy to understand. Certainly if we're doing a presentation or we're sending some information to a senior executive, we want it to be clear. So with using Power BI, and as you can see from the example on the right hand side here, using Power BI, we can use our data and produce these reports. And we can publish them, share insights with others. I just mentioned that in the previous slide. There's lots of places that we can put these reports, and we can embed them into places within our organisation or even onto our website. And then the ability to collaborate. Okay, so we can empower our organisation. So once we've got these reports, we can send them out to the organisation. We can start to look into them in a bit more detail ourselves. We can give specific people the responsibility to look after a certain bunch of reports. So basically, when the report comes out, they can interrogate that data. They can go further. They can create further reports from it in order to get deeper into the data and deeper into the analytics that it's providing. Power Apps. Okay, so this is really what we're getting into today, and what we're wanting to look at, and it will, as I say, it will accumulate at the end when we look at the application that we have created. So again, Power Apps is a SaaS application, okay, software as a service. It's there, it's built into your 365 estate, and it's there ready for you to use, okay. So when we've got Power Apps, okay, we can connect, so across your data from the cloud to on-premise, okay. So wherever you've got the data that basically you want to hold, we can connect any data that we've got into the Power App. So for example, in the example I'm going to use later on, we've got a SharePoint list. That's where the data is held. The Power App interacts with that data, and it allows the user of the application in order to go in and use that data or to create new data for that. And that goes in the middle box there, create. So business apps with easy visual tools and powerful cloud services, and we can share securely with our teams across various devices. So you can see across there in the top right hand corner, we can use Power Apps through mobile, we can use it through tablet, and we can use it through desktop. I've actually developed the tablet version of an application to show you that, but I'm going to be using it on a desktop, so it's nice and simple. So Power Apps Cloud, publish apps to people in your business so they can access anywhere. Build connections, build apps that interact with your data sources and respect their permissions. It is available on web and mobile, so find and use apps instantly on the web or mobile. And create custom design interface with full visual experience. So when we're creating this app, and I will show you again when I go into the demonstration of it, we've built an app that basically the visual interface, the design of it is nice and simple. What we want to be able to do is to say to people within our organization, if there's something that you need to do, if you need to request something, you go through the app, it asks some simple questions, they complete that, and then everything else is taken care of through Power Automate. And you can expand it further with advanced development as well. So what I'm going to show you today is a relative basic design of a Power App, but we can get really quite in depth with the development of these apps as well. So if there is something that you're thinking about, thinking, you know, I wish there was an app for that, come and speak to us, because ultimately there is the opportunity with Power Apps in order to be able to do that for you. So Microsoft Power Apps is a service for creating and using custom business apps across platforms. Okay, so you can connect to any existing systems and data sources. You can build apps, forms, and workflows without writing code. Okay, so it's advertised as no code. Okay, but I would take that with a pinch of salt. It's actually low code. Okay, so there's not a huge amount of code that has to go into the building of apps, but there is some understanding of coding that is required sometimes when you're building certainly more advanced applications as well. And then you can publish these apps instantly for web and mobile. Okay, so we can publish the app to our employees so they can access it via their mobile. So let's just say, for example, it's you want to have a holiday booking system within your organization. Okay, so to allow employees to book their holidays, to see how much holidays they've got left. So within SharePoint, we create the data within SharePoint. That is where our holiday calendar is kept. And then we develop the app, which then can be published to people's mobiles, or they can use it on their desktop as well. So that when they need to book a holiday, they go into the app, they select the dates and they put the reason in and they press submit. That can then go through an approval process, and once it's been accepted, they'll get a notification back to say their holidays have been accepted, and it will apply it to the calendar. Super, super simple. So moving on to Power Automate. Okay, so we've got the app. Okay, so the app is basically how we interact with the data. But what happens between the data and the app itself? How do we work the flows that are within there? Well, we use Power Automate. So Power Automate gives us the ability to have automation at scale. So we can efficiently scale automation across your organization. We can use seamless and secure integration. Okay, so it securely integrates automation at every level. Okay, so we've got to really just drive home this security message. Our data that is held within the 365 is not leaving 365 at this time. So we're using SharePoint to hold the data. We're using Automate to transfer the data, and we're using Power Apps in order to work with the data. Okay, so everything's held within the 365 estate there. Accelerate productivity and focus on more strategic work. So when we talk about accelerating productivity, this is taking those manual tasks that we have and automating them essentially to allow people to work on things that are more important to the organization or more profitable to the organization at that time. And then the intelligent automation, so we can increase efficiency through automated workflows infused with artificial intelligence. So we'll see that again. I'm going to take you through a Power Automate flow that we've created and just show you how that works. So why would we use Power Automate? Okay, so 60% of all occupations have at least 30% technically automatable activities. That's a mouthful. So basically what we're saying here is that 60% of all the jobs that are done within an organization, 30% of what they do could be automated. Higher productivity, almost half of all work activities have the potential to be automated using current technologies that we have today. So if you haven't yet started thinking about this, let's start looking at some of the processes that we have within the organization and thinking, could we automate them? Could we be saving people time? Could we be saving the company time and ultimately making our organizations more profitable by automating the tasks that we have? Collecting and processing data are amongst the activities with the highest automation potential. So that's 70%. 70% of the processes that we do around collecting and processing data can be automated. And then the long-term cost savings, 30% of businesses achieve long-term cost savings as a result of automation. So again, so if we just take ourselves back a little step, you know, we've got three applications that we're talking about here. We've got SharePoint, we've got Power Apps, and we've got Power Automate. SharePoint is where we hold the data. Power Automate is how we transmit the data, transfer the data, and put workflows in place. And Power Apps is how we interact with the data. Okay, so if we think about the cost savings for an organisation, to say if we've got a manual process that we do, this could be sped up, dramatically by using these 3 applications. So the main benefits around it. Okay, so boost productivity. We can share data easily. There is this no-code or stroke low-code approach in order to be able to develop it, and I will show you a Power App just shortly as well. And there's developer workflows in there as well, so we can create complex workflows deployed to your environment as well. So boosting productivity, we can make people more efficient in what they do. We can share this data easily within the organisation. I'm going to show you a bit of an approval process that we put in place for the app that we're going to demonstrate just towards the end of this presentation. There is this no-code approach or low-code approach, which means it's accessible. So perhaps what we do is we develop a couple of apps with you. We show you how to do it, and then from then on you can do it yourself. You might be able to go into Power Apps and actually start to develop applications that can help you in your role or help your colleagues in their roles. And then, as I said before, we've got the developers, we've got the skills in-house to really take this to the next level and develop quite complex applications for you. So the attributes of Power Automate. Okay, so what I want to do is just explore a little bit of how Power Automate works. Okay, so Power Automate, in order for a process automation to begin, it needs a trigger. Okay, it needs somewhere to start. So a trigger is the event that starts the cloud flow. Okay, so for example, when a new email arrives, into my inbox, we tell Power Automate, do this, and it automates what happens from then on. When an item or a file is modified, okay, that's the example I'm going to use today with the Power App that we've developed and the automated process in the background. So when an item or a file is modified, that's the trigger, and now we want an automated process to do something else. Or when when a feed item is published. When a file is created, so this could be something in OneDrive. So when I create a file in OneDrive, I want an automated process. When a new tweet is posted, anybody that's joined us today or is watching along that's from a marketing background. So when we think about managing our social media, you might have something that helps you manage that, but perhaps you don't, and perhaps that's a manual task that you've got as well. So any tweets that we get, any mentions that we get on any social network, we can actually automate a process to say when that happens, do this, and that could be collate the information, put everything into a spreadsheet, let me know, give me a notification on Teams when somebody tweets me, so on and so forth. And when a new response is submitted. Microsoft Forms is superb, really great, and when we think back to some of the systems that we've used in the past for collating information or sending questionnaires, but Microsoft Forms, there are a few things that we've done ourselves within Dynamic Edge. So things like, ergonomics, DSE checks, DSI checks, basically. So we've got a Microsoft form that staff can go through and complete their workstation assessments. And then that information, when they complete the form, it's then fed and it's logged into a tracker. There's a Power Automate that goes in place to notify different people. If there are any questions that are answered that need to be addressed, then specific people within the organisation will get notified in order for them to take that task on. So Microsoft Forms is an excellent trigger for an automated process. We then need some actions. Okay, so these were the top 3 that I picked out here, and then we'll look at what do we do with that. So when this happens, what's the next action? Okay, so the action that we can put in for when a new email arrives is send auto replies to senders when a new email arrives after office hours. So rather than if we work, let's just say we work 9 till 5, yeah, and at 5 p.m. every day we can set up an automated process that basically just sends people an out of office message after 5 to say thank you for your email. I'll be back in the office at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning, and I will respond to you then. Okay, so it's nice to get that message back to people, just in case they weren't expecting an answer that night. Okay, so this is something you might have had to do yourself, so you'd have to go in at the end of every day and just add your out of office and put it on and then put it off in the morning stuff. We can automate that through Power Automate. Something really simple, but just to give you an example of one of the little things that it can do. Notify a team when a tweet with a hashtag is posted. So again, from that marketing point of view, we might want to track a specific hashtag that's to do with technology, or it could be to do with I don't know, anything that's going on around just now. So as soon as that hashtag is mentioned by anyone across the entire Twitter platform, we can have a team that gets a notification to say somebody has tweeted using that hashtag. So it could be your own hashtag, and then that allows somebody just to jump in and interact with it essentially. So it gives them that instant notification. And then one with forms, so you can see we're expanding this out a little bit here. So we can track Microsoft form responses in Excel and notify through Teams and email. So there's a bit more to that. So you can see that the Microsoft Forms symbol at the start there, and then we've got Excel, we've got Teams, and we've got Outlook. So this is exactly what I was talking about earlier with our workstation assessments. So an employee completes a workstation assessment through Microsoft Forms. All of the questions are in there. Once they complete that, an Excel document is automatically updated. Okay, so we hold that Excel document within Teams, within a team within Teams as well, but it automatically updates a table within there with the answers. We will then get a Teams message to specific people in the organisation to say an assessment has been completed. And then using Outlook, we will email the person who completed it back to say, thanks for completing that. We'll look through your responses and get back to you with anything that needs to be done. But then if there's anything that we have defined within that, any answers that we have defined that need to be addressed, an email will be sent to the specific person within the specific department that needs to address that. So if somebody has said in their workstation assessment that they need a document holder, an email will then be sent to our office manager to say such and such person needs a document holder. Nice and simple, and it's fully automated throughout. So there are lots of connectors within Power Automate as well. So I'm just going to bounce through a few of them here. So connect to hundreds of services with built-in connectors. These are the things that we can connect to using Power Automate and create automated processes. So Outlook, we talked about it there. We've got OneDrive, we've got SharePoint. We've talked about SharePoint a couple of times today, and we're going to see that in our demonstration just shortly. We've got Power BI, okay, so we can connect to Power BI. We can take information, use the automated process and push it out to Power BI. And there's Power Apps there as well. That's what we're going to be going through in just a minute. So we can use Power Apps to really, so we can use Power Automate to bring the data to Power Apps or to take the data from Power Apps to another location. But we can also put approval processes and things in place there, and I will show you that in the demonstration as well. I've got Microsoft Teams. Okay, so Microsoft Teams is front and center of all our organizations now. We use it for chat, we use it for Teams, we use it for video conferencing. We're using it today for a Teams live event. So, you know, there's so many uses we've got for Teams within the organization, but Power Automate can link into that too. And you saw that in my previous slide when I was talking about notifying people in Teams if a form is completed and things. And there is Microsoft Forms. It's a brilliant application. It's really simple to use. If you haven't used Microsoft Forms before, go in and have a shot. If you just go to portal.office.com, go to the top left corner where all the dots are, and you'll find Microsoft Forms in there, and just start to create your own forms as well. Really simple and really easy to do. So we've got things like Adobe, we've got sort of the Google Drive, stuff like Salesforce, Salesforce Box, SQL. Okay, so we've got a SQL database. We can use Power Automate in order to bring that to another location, and then we've got our social media platforms there, Twitter, Facebook as well, but that's just a few. And then hopefully what you can see here is it's connectors continued. There are a plethora of connectors that you can link into to Power Automate. So just use an example there. There's MailChimp that's sort of down around here on the on there. So MailChimp is maybe people use that for email marketing. Okay, so we can link Power Automate into MailChimp. Okay, there's a number of the other ones that you've seen there, but you can see stuff like Gmail. Okay, so maybe you use Gmail for parts within your organization as well. Power Automate can link into that. So you can see there's many connectors. So within Power Automate, please don't be sitting there thinking, well, I don't know if I can use that app because I use this application, that application. And Power Automate can link into, as you can see, hundreds and hundreds of applications. So please start to think about that. Start to think, how can I maybe automate some of the processes within the organization, and start to look at these apps and see how that would work. So P2P app. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do now. Is I'm going to just break out. I'm going to shift onto another screen, and I'm going to show you an application that we've developed. Okay, so this is for the purchase to pay idea. All right, so for those of you who've been on webinars with me before, you may have seen my HR onboarding application that we created. So this basically was a simple app that meant that a hiring manager could go in, fill in the relevant details for their new start, press submit. Once they press submit, and then the automation kicks off and then goes to different places and tells people to do different tasks and things like that for the onboarding of that individual. But for this one here, I'm going to use SharePoint, I'm going to use Power Apps, and I'm going to use Power Automate in order to manage the purchase to pay process. Quite a simple process, but every organisation does it. So within here, what the problem that we've got, so the problem that we're looking to solve with this application is that we don't have a great system in place just now for purchase orders, for generating a purchase order and then getting the products in and then making sure that that's okay to be invoiced. Okay, so basically what we're looking to do here is automate that process. How can we make it smart? How can we make it easy for employees to get a purchase order number? And then how can we use the automation in the background to make sure that it's not accounts having to go through various different manual processes in order to get there? So please watch this with an open mind, okay, because in your organisation you might already have a purchase to pay system in place. But what I'm hoping to show here is the potential of Power Apps with Automate and SharePoint to make you think about maybe other things in the organisation that could be automated through using these applications. So I shall shift across, and we are now across in bear with me just 2 seconds, in Power Automate, sorry. Okay, so we've got Power Apps, we've got SharePoint, and we've got Power Automate. So the first thing, I'll come back to SharePoint in a minute, okay? But the first thing I want to do is look at Power Apps. And just 2 seconds. Perfect. So within Power Apps as well, okay? So if I go to Apps here on the left-hand side, we can see the apps that we have created, okay? So this is the purchase order request prototype. So before I show you behind the scenes on it, before I show you how it's built and what's going on with it, I would like to just play it for you to show you how it works. Okay, so here's the app. As you can see, I've done it in tablet form, so this could be sitting on a tablet within the organisation, or as you can see, I can access it through a desktop here. You can actually access it through a mobile phone as well. But as I said earlier on, it's really, really simple. We want to make it simple for people in the organisation in order to get a purchase order. So within the app here, they can quite simply just go and create purchase order. Click there, and you can see there's a number of things that we're asking for. So the title, okay, so what is it that we're wanting to do? We want to buy new PC devices. Okay, so we need some new PCs for the business, and that's what we're going to do, so that's fine. Who's the supplier? We can put in here, we're going to put Dynamic Edge as the supplier. Now within here as well, just to point out to you, I've not done it in this circumstance here for the purposes of this demonstration, but what you could have here is a drop down. So if you have a preferred suppliers list within your organisation, we can just have a drop down, and only preferred suppliers can be found there, because we don't necessarily want people going and buying things from people we don't know. They have to be buying from our preferred suppliers list, so we can have a SharePoint list in the background that this will reference to look for our preferred suppliers. But I've just done this as a manual box just now. The purchase order date, okay, so we can put the date in. It's going to be today's date because that's when I need it, but you've got the ability to either retrospectively get a purchase order. I hope people don't do that, or you can be looking to get a purchase order for in the future as well. But for the purposes of the demonstration, we'll just go with today's date, which is the 27th of May, so you can see that's put in there. Purchase order amount net of VAT, okay? This is really important what we do here, and when I take you across to the Power Automate for this app, you'll start to understand what we're doing here. But for the purposes of this one, I'm going to put £1,000 basically for the new PC devices that we've got. All right, it's requested by. I'm going to put my own name in here. So again, when we're developing this for you, you can actually have, it will reference your Active Directory, and it will just basically have all the 365 accounts that you have. So you could actually search and look for your name, or you could request it on someone else's behalf. You can upload any attachments that you want into there as well. And then you've got another category that you can put in here. So it'll be IT hardware. Again, with this one, we can have this as a drop down, which would then allow you to choose the category that it would come from. And then really simple, we just save that. and that's it saved. So now you can see that this is the list of any purchase order requests that I've made. So that's quite simple, and that's it there. So if I click on this one now, we come across, it says it's getting your data. Now the reason that it's getting my data, and I'll show you that in the Power app, okay, is that I've put an approval process in place here. So I'll go through that in the Power app in more detail, in the Power Automate, sorry, in more detail in a second. But once that approval has happened, the purchase order will appear here up at the top, the purchase order number, and all the details going back down there. So it's really, really simple, essentially. So what I would do is I would come in, I would raise that purchase order. It will go through the approval process that I'll show you in a second. Once that has been approved by the line manager, the people within the organisation, I get the purchase order number. At the second that I've got that purchase order number, I can then take it and I can go and purchase those services. Come back out of that for a second. So once we have requested the purchase order, it has been approved and we've got it. We can then, once we go back in, once we get this data here, again, it's not going to appear just now because it needs to be approved, but once we've got this data here, what will essentially happen is there will then be a new tick box that comes in to say item has arrived. Okay, so tick box to say item has arrived, and a box that asks us for what was the invoice amount that came in for it. And as long as the invoice amount matches up to this and we press submit, it will then just off it goes to accounts to say this invoice is good to be paid. If there is a difference between the invoice amount and the purchase order amount, it will then follow that approval process that happened in the background as well. So by having an authorized purchase order at the start, and as long as the invoice amount matches up with what the purchase order request had been, because that purchase order request has been through an approval process within the organisation, then this invoice is good to be paid. It's fine to be paid. It doesn't have to go through another approval process because these things match up. So within your business, what you could do is have all of the employees have the ability to raise a purchase order, but then perhaps only certain people have access to this area, which is updating to say that the invoice amounts match. And that could be a function that goes to someone perhaps within the accounts department. So really, really super simple. Okay, so let's just go back out of here, create another purchase order just to run you through the process again. And let's just get my data. Or maybe just asked it to do too many things at once there. So here we are here. So we can put the title in again. So this time we want to buy a coffee machine. And the supplier is going to be, let's go, Kenco. So this coffee supplier that came to my name at this moment. Okay, we actually want to do this one on Monday. The purchase order amount is going to be £2,478. It was requested by myself, and the item type is office. Let's call it office stuff, and we save that there. So there we are now. So there's the purchase orders that I've now got. So we've got the one for the new PC devices, and we've got the coffee machine there as well. As soon as these are approved, I get the purchase order number there, and then I can go off and purchase that. So there are a couple of things that I want to show you now. Okay, first thing I want to do is head across to SharePoint, because there it is there. It's already happened. So within this SharePoint, this is just a team that I created for this purpose. We've got our SharePoint list here. And basically you can see coming down there, here's the new PC devices that I wanted to get from Dynamic Edge, and it was £1,000. And there's the coffee machine from Kenco, it was 2,478, not yet been approved, so I don't have a purchase order number. Nice and simple. So for you, if you want to go in and look at all the purchase orders that have been raised over the last, defined period of time, you can go in here, find the ones that have been approved and find the ones that haven't been approved. And if it is that you're logged in here, it will give you the option to go in and approve it yourself at this stage as well. And you can see there's all the data that we require coming across. There are some fields that I haven't added in, which is, for example, item received as yet as well. So that's where this data is held. So everything that we're doing in the app is feeding back to this SharePoint list. Okay, and then when we're in the app and when we're going to the section where, if we go back to here, when we're putting our data in to say it's received, it's talking back to SharePoint to understand the data that's held within here as well. So the next thing we want to look at is the Power Automate side of stuff. So we've got the app, okay, so the app's going away and it's doing its thing, okay, and we've got the SharePoint place where we can keep the data, but we need to link the two up together, and we need to get quite smart with it because there's certain things that we want to do. So what we want to do is show you the flow that we've put in place, okay, show you the automation that we've put in place between the two. So if we go to this P2P demo, which I've done for just now, and what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to edit that just now so that I can go in and show you. So if you remember back to my PowerPoint presentation when I said when an item is created or modified, okay, so that was this part here. And if we drop down here, you will see that when an item is created or modified within this SharePoint address and that SharePoint list, I want you to do this. So then we look at the condition. So there's your trigger, okay? And these are now the actions that we've got. So basically I've put in here, again, I've kept this really, really simple, but the condition is if the purchase order amount is between nothing and nothing, so that actually doesn't really matter just now, then move on to the next step. So it is yes, it is between those 2 points. So we go to yes, okay? If it's in yes, then we go to condition number 2. Condition number 2 says if the purchase order amount is less than or equal to 500, then go to here, update the item, okay? So basically what it's saying here is if it is less than £500, you can go to this SharePoint list and actually just approve it yourself and give it a purchase order number. That's what it's telling it to do there, okay? So in the situation where I was in here, if we just come back out of there, if this was less than £500, I would have got the purchase order number automatically within there because the Power Automate says if it's less than £500, just approve it straight away. However, if it's not less than £500, say it's £501, or in the case where we've got earlier on, it's £1,000, we can actually start and wait for an approval. So we add the start and wait for approval in here. We say the approval type is approve or reject. Everyone must approve, so you can actually have multiple people in it. You give it a title, so they'll get this message to say please approve the PO. It's assigned to, just got my address in there. We then provide a link to the item and we say click here to view. Really simple. So basically they get the email in to say Stephen Laurie has requested to buy IT hardware for £1,000. Click here to view it. So they'll click in, they'll see the description of why I'm wanting to do that, and they can hit approve or reject quite simply at that point. Remember, if they hit approve, it would then go through this process here to then give me the purchase order number. And then here we go. So if the outcome is equal to approve, then update the item with a purchase order number. Okay. So really, really quite simple there, just to take you through. So I'm just going to have a very quick recap of that. So we've got our purchase order system across here. So we can just go back from that. So we can create purchase orders. Apologies about that. Maybe just got a little glitch there that I need to fix. But for the purposes of this, I'll just carry on. So we've got the purchase order request form that we can give to every employee if they want to buy anything. Once they submit that, it will go into this area here where they can view their purchase orders. Depending on the amount of the purchase order, if it's less than £500, the Automate tells the system to automatically give it a purchase order number that it references from the SharePoint sites across here. If it is more than £500, then we follow this flow that I've just demonstrated here. So basically we go down here, we go down through the approvals, we send emails to people, we ask them if they approve it, then we tell it there to then give the purchase order number onto it. And then if we jump across to SharePoint again as well, we can then see within here that in actual fact, there you go, there's a purchase order request that's been accepted as well. So there we are. There's a quick run through of a Power App that has been created, and just maybe starting to think about some other types of systems that we can do. So if we have, you know, and I talked about HR onboarding. I talked about employee holiday booking. Okay, recording of sicknesses and absences. Okay, these can all be done through an app. So we can actually automate the process. So for example, if it's recording of an absence, we go into the app, we record the absence in there. Then we use Power Automate in order to go through the process of informing people updating a spreadsheet, updating a team, sending someone a notification, sending someone an automatic email with a self-declaration form as an example. We can be doing all of that within there as well. So hopefully what I've done today, just with this short demonstration of quite a simple app that we've put together, is to show you that there are processes within the organisation that can be automated, and we can use the Power Apps, Power Automate and SharePoint, and then bringing in things like Power BI and stuff like that as well if we want to report on it, to be able to do that. So thank you, thanks for listening. Hopefully I managed to get that across and trying to explain it in a way that is relatively easy to understand. So what I'll do now is I shall just come out of this. I shall stop presenting. Bear with me a second. Perfect. So stop presenting now. So I'm just going to have a quick look at the Q&A to see if there's anything in there. There are no questions in there just now, so that's excellent. Hopefully that means that I've got everything across and no one's got any questions. But if there are anything, if you would like to ask any questions, please feel free to contact me direct. If you'd like to have a one-to-one conversation about, you know, perhaps you've got an idea of something, you're thinking, how would that work? And maybe what I've shown you today, you know, so it's not relevant to you, but you're wondering if something that you do could be automated and could have an app to run it basically, then please feel free to give me a call. I'm more than happy to give you my time just to run through that and try and understand what it is that you're trying to do, and then leverage some of the expertise we've got in-house with our development team and some of our biz dev guys, to really have a chat to you about that and see how that would work. So anyway, so thanks very much for joining me today. As I said before, we do have webinars on our YouTube channel that you can go and watch, and I hope that was useful for you today. Thank you very much.